There are a lot of super secret and mysterious buildings in the world. Buildings like Fort Knox, MI6 in England, the Vatican's top secret archives, and Russia's Mezhgorod region. But in today's video, I want to talk about the most well-known one that we all recognize, the Pentagon in the USA. As you might guess from the name, the Pentagon is a five-sided building, and you could say it's the most important military building in America, maybe even the world, because a lot of important decisions that changed the world have been made there. From World War II to the challenges of the 21st century, this building has always been at the center of America's crucial decisions. In 1941, President Roosevelt ordered the construction of such a building, and he wanted it done quickly because he knew that a war with Germany was inevitable. Even though it was rushed, this building was built very cheaply and according to principles in the fastest time possible. He wanted a place where he could gather all the country's military forces together. The Navy, the Marine Corps, which are some of the elite forces known as the Marines, the Air Force, the National Guard, and the Coast Guard. All of them are stationed in this building. All the generals work here, and all of America's secret documents are stored here too. You might ask, what about Fort Knox? Isn't that a vault? But many believe this place is even more secure than Fort Knox. And it should be secure because if something happens to this building, America's power would be at risk since all the leaders are in this building, and on top of that, there are important secret documents here that shouldn't fall into the wrong hands. But why was it built with five sides? This design came from the creative mind of a young engineer named George Bergstrom. He was faced with limited land, and inspired by the irregular shape of the land, he proposed a pentagon shape. This design made the best use of space and became a symbol of America's power and innovation. One of the most interesting things about the Pentagon's construction is the issue of racial segregation. At that time, racial segregation was common in America, and initially, the designers planned to have separate restrooms for white and black people. But Roosevelt opposed this plan and ordered that all facilities be built without discrimination. At first, they called it the Department of War. After World War II, they didn't want their army to seem so aggressive, so they changed the name from the Department of War to the Department of Defense. The Pentagon was built very quickly. Thousands of workers were working around the clock. And finally, after 16 months, in January 1943, the building was completed and the first employees moved in. Back then, the cost of constructing this 600,000 square meter building was $63 million, which today would be about $1.2 billion. Even though the Pentagon was built cheaply and quickly, it was very well constructed. Since it was built in 1941, some materials were used that are now banned and known to be carcinogenic, like asbestos. In 1990, Pentagon officials realized that asbestos in the building was rampant and making everyone sick. They saw that removing asbestos insulation from the building would be very difficult and more expensive than the building itself. So they decided to demolish and rebuild it from scratch. But it wasn't like they demolished the entire building at once. They would demolish one section, rebuild it, and then move on to the next section. They followed the old design but made it stronger, with modern equipment and higher security. This process took 11 years because 600,000 square meters is no joke. They couldn't just bring anyone in to work on it. The companies they selected were security companies because they couldn't risk someone being a spy and leaking the building's secrets. This reconstruction, which took 11 years and cost about $2.5 billion in today's money, was completed in 2001. But that wasn't the ending everyone expected. In September 21, we all know what happened. Two planes hit the Twin Towers in New York, and another plane crashed into the Pentagon. Thanks to the reconstruction, the damage was much less than expected. A section was destroyed, and 125 people were killed in the incident. But interestingly, not a single window broke in the building. You might think I'm joking and say, how can the building be damaged but the windows didn't break? Well, the windows used in this building were 7.5 centimeters thick, explosion-proof glass, and while the frames came off, the glass itself didn't break. The reconstruction after the 9/11 incident cost about $4.5 billion, which today would be about $8 billion. After September 2001, the security of this already secure building increased even more. They even pushed back the Washington Highway 110 that passed by the Pentagon to increase the distance. On the east side of the Pentagon, there's a river called the Potomac, and on the other side of this river, there was an air base. The Pentagon heavily fortified this base, turning it into one that solely protects the Pentagon, both on land and in the air. Did you know that no airplane is allowed to fly over Washington, D.C. without permission? Planes are only allowed to enter Washington, D.C. to land or take off, but they can't fly over the Pentagon or the White House or anything like that. Interestingly, sometimes even American passenger planes have accidentally entered this airspace. They've got a solution for this too. They send a powerful red laser towards the plane that shines into the cockpit, signaling the pilot that they're off course and need to change their direction. This laser is the final warning. If the pilot doesn't heed it, the plane is considered a terrorist threat and is taken down. Before 2001, things were easy. Americans could even send different packages or letters to the Pentagon. But now, every package sent to the Pentagon, even from U.S. government institutions, goes to a separate facility outside the Pentagon where they check for any poisonous, explosive, or dangerous items. Once the building has checked the packages, they go onto a conveyor belt that goes underground and never comes out of the building again. The package travels underground and reaches the Pentagon. The Pentagon has 5 floors and 2 underground levels, making it 7 floors in total. But there was only one elevator in the entire building, and that was only for emergencies, so employees had to use the stairs. But in 2011, they saw that all the employees' knees were hurting, so they decided to install elevators. They put in 70 elevators in 70 parts of the building. But the Pentagon wasn't just a witness to tense moments. This building was also the birthplace of major innovations that changed our lives. For example, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency DARPA, based in the Pentagon, played a crucial role in developing the Internet, GPS, and many other technologies. From a distance, the building doesn't look very big, but you should know it's huge. The Pentagon has twice the floor space of the heaviest building in the world, the Romanian Parliament building. You might ask, so why isn't the Pentagon the heaviest? Because the Romanian Parliament is made entirely of marble, which makes it very heavy, but the Pentagon is a reinforced concrete building. How long do you think it would take to walk around the Pentagon? And how far is it? The perimeter of this building is about 1.5 kilometers, but if you were to walk through its corridors, you'd have to walk 28 kilometers. Another interesting thing to know is that when they started building the Pentagon, they initially planned to use a steel frame, but because it was wartime and steel was very valuable, they decided to use reinforced concrete to save on steel. But in the 90s, when they renovated the building, they switched the frame to steel, although many parts of the building are still reinforced concrete. What do you think about the Pentagon? Let us know in the comments, and if you liked the video, please like and subscribe.